Good evening. It's Kim Seiberling back with our third screencast about talking to your church about money. In previous episodes, if you haven't caught them, we talked about the taboos about talking about money, the biblical reason and reasons for talking about money, and how to prepare your leadership and your congregation to talk about money. So, if you've missed those screencasts, I strongly encourage you to go back and look at those so we can build a really, really strong foundation for what we're going to talk about today, which is some of the nuts and bolts. The first and most important thing I want to emphasize is that before you start a capital campaign, it's extremely necessary that you've done your homework. I think pastors and leaders within a church need to know what their congregation's attitudes about money are and what receptivity to having a campaign is. So, receptivity is exactly what it sounds like. It monitors or helps you get an idea of how ready your congregation is for a campaign and to talk about money. Not every congregation is in the same place. Now, if your congregation does not seem in the right place to talk about money, there is some homework that you need to do. The first thing is you, as the pastor, need to lead in generosity. If you are not tithing or close to tithing, you can't ask your people to tithe. So, the first thing we need to do as leaders is to look at ourselves and make sure that we are leading the way in our congregations and showing them what a generous life looks like. And when I say a generous life, I don't just mean writing a check out to the church and calling it a day. I just think as pastors, we need, and leaders of the church even, we need to seriously look at, do we have generous attitudes towards others? Do we have generous attitudes about how we spend time and giving our time to people who truly need attention or who truly seek our attention? Are we generous with our words and how we speak about others and talk about others? Generosity can take all kinds of forms. And so, are you a generous leader in every aspect of the definition? The next thing is you need to make sure leadership is on board. Pastors, you can get in a lot of trouble by moving forward full steam ahead without having your leadership on board. Don't forget, it's not pastors against your leadership in the congregation and vice versa. We are a team. So when our congregation succeed, we succeed. And if a pastor fails, a congregation fails. And so through all this, it's very, very important to keep a team mentality with you and your leadership and your congregation. And finally, just remind you, people need a vision. People don't give towards roofs. People don't give towards remodeling. People give towards the vision of what happens underneath that roof. People give towards the ministry that remodeling will serve and the people that it will serve and the lives that will be changed as a result of remodeling or a new roof. So don't lose sight of the vision. Never, ever, ever let go of that. So the most common kind of campaign is an annual campaign. And these annual campaigns are receiving pledges or commitments from your congregation about regular, weekly, and monthly giving. This is kind of the bread and butter of most churches that I talk to. It's people who attend fairly regularly and are already in a regular giving pattern. And it's also to talk to people who don't give regularly about trying to get into the habit of regular, weekly, or monthly giving. Normally, these annual campaigns end in the November timeframe. My experience with annual campaigns is that once Thanksgiving hits, you lose your congregation a little bit. Not only do you lose them in attendance because they're traveling, visiting family, perfectly normal things to do, so their attendance is sporadic, but you're also losing their attention. They're paying attention to turkeys and sale flyers and ticket prices and snow if you live in a particular part of the country. And their focus isn't really on necessarily their spiritual growth or their spiritual health from Thanksgiving to Christmas, because I think we'll all admit we all get a little busy and maybe even a little frazzled during this time period. So, what I normally recommend, especially for churches that have a January to January budget, is that the campaign concludes sometime in October or November. So most of these campaigns last about 4 weeks. The issue is that most churches' pews don't begin to fill up again until after Labor Day, after school has started. So you have basically in between Labor Day to Thanksgiving to complete an annual campaign. So you can pick any 4 weeks in between Labor Day and Thanksgiving to have that campaign. Now, if your church does not run from a January to January budget, which most churches do, but if your church doesn't, you have other options, because what works out so beautifully for this October, November ending time frame is you have plenty of time to sit down and make a budget that will begin January 1st. So if you do have a different fiscal year, you have other options available to you. But I would really encourage you to hold this campaign when you have some hearty crowds in the pews, when attendance seems to be really, really healthy. Some tips on your annual campaign. The first tip I have for you is you must begin early. If you do not begin planning these things 2 to 3 months ahead of time, you will not have time to complete your campaign in a way that is professional and is going to yield the best results for you and your congregation. I know there are pastors and lay people out there who are like, this is easy. I've read the book. I'm good to go. I can just wait till the last minute, but that's just not true. So if you would like your campaign to begin in October, I would suggest you begin 3 months out, getting your first team together, going through parts of whatever material you want to use, discussing how they feel the congregation will respond to the materials that you've chosen, discussing, the details of the campaign, including your victory dinner and who's going to do what, assigning tasks, getting to know each other. Here are some more tips on that annual campaign. The first is don't try to do it alone. Raising funds in a church takes a team. No single person or single individual in any church can do it alone. There are too many things that need to be done. And even in smaller churches, Pastor, you need to have a team of 2 or 3 people who are going to help you run this campaign. It cannot just be you. You need a team. The second is you need to have a budget for the campaign. There are expenses in an average annual campaign, including postage to mail out letters. We're still in a campaign. Snail is stewardship campaign. Snail mailing letters or sending them traditional posts. And there is in many of these programs a dinner that we're requesting people to attend to reveal the results of the campaign. And so those are two of the main costs that you will have. I'm going to talk about the meal a little later. It's important to note that that meal be catered, not cooked by people in the church. This is a time for your whole church to come together and celebrate. And the last piece of advice I have for you is don't reinvent the wheel. There are plenty of resources out there to help you complete your first annual stewardship campaign. And I want to share some of those with you and briefly talk about what they entail. So, the first one, and the original kind of founder of stewardship programs, the one that most all the other resources I'm going to be sharing with you are based on the resource I'm showing you on the left. Herb Miller's New Consecration Sunday. I suggest if this is the first time your church is doing a consecration Sunday and a stewardship program, that you use this program and follow it to the letter. Just follow even the things that don't make sense to you, follow them to the letter. What this program entails, and I'm not going to give out all the details, is that it's generally a 4-week campaign. Each week features a testimony from someone in your church who is a faithful giver. And we are encouraging people to make a step toward a tithe. So we're not asking people to tithe or else. It's asking people to look at what they're giving and asking and challenging them to take a step forward toward a tithe. I really love this approach because you don't have to give millions of more dollars to meet the challenge. You can look at your budget and say maybe, well, I don't have to get coffee as often as I get it, or I don't have to eat out as often as we do, or we don't have to order pizza every Friday, or we don't have to go to the movies as much as we do. Maybe there are simple things that families can do collectively to make an impact in their step towards the tithe. At the end of this 4-week period, people are asked to come to what's called a consecration Sunday, where they will submit a intended pledge. Of course, these pledges, if life happens, we understand people can call into the office at any time and change these pledges. But this Sunday, after the pledges are made, there's a meal afterwards. This meal is a catered meal paid for, as a friendly reminder, by the budget of the stewardship program. A lot of churches have found affordable ways to pay for this meal. Some churches will call the other United Methodist church down the road or the next neighborhood and see if they will cater each other's churches for them. Like, hey, this is our week of Consecration Sunday and yours is 2 weeks later. Would you be willing to cater our meal for so much a head, and we'll cater yours for the same amount per head? And that way you can keep costs down. Some churches have elected on a brunch. A brunch is sometimes a little cheaper than a lunch. But try and make the meal nice. Try and make it a little nicer than sandwiches and potato salad, because what this really is a celebration of gratitude for what you're about to announce, which is your pledges for the year. And so you want it to be a celebration. You don't want it to feel like, oh, we have to be here, we took the cheapest route. You want it to feel like your presence here is important. And as a church, just we're so grateful for each other and how we can collectively come together and accomplish big things. And so try and keep that in mind, that this is a celebration of what your congregation can do when you pull together and have a common goal. J. Cliff Christopher on the right has produced material that's really good called Not Your Parents' Offering Plate. I recommend that too. If you've already done Herb Miller's New Consecration Sunday, I do recommend that after that you move on to Christopher's book that does have some new content and some new material with some new research in it. So I recommend this book also. Some other books that I have used to, after like 3, 4, 5, 6 years at a church and using this campaign, I recommend as further resources, Nowin's A Spirituality of Fundraising. As always, he's deep. He gets you to think about money in a sensitive yet engaging way. Michael Slaughter has a resource called Money Matters. I'm hoping soon that Michael chooses to edit this. Some of the illustrations in it aren't as up to date as some of the other resources, but again, still engaging, still compelling. What I like about the Money Matters resources is it comes with a DVD or CD of some testimonies from Ginghamsburg that you can use in your sermons as illustrations. And so I really like that if you have a church that is media focused, that it has those videos in it with testimonies about being in debt. The focus of Money Matters is getting out of debt, being free from financial debt. So I really love that focus because I do feel like a lot of our families can't give the way they want to give because they are in debt. And Michael focuses on getting families out of debt so they can be generous with their money in the way that they really want to be. I think if you begin to dig into the lives of families, you will find there are a lot of families that are in debt to the point where they feel like they can't do whatever they want with their money. Adam Hamilton has a book called Enough. And I like this book because it focuses on simple living. It focuses on what do we really need as Christians? What kind of lifestyle are we really called to lead as Christians? And so all these three books have a different focus that I think as you do annual campaigns, you're going to find that they begin to feel repetitive after a while. And so, using some of these resources to supplement your annual campaign can keep it fresh and alive. And it just gives it a new perspective every year that I think congregations appreciate. So, that's one little tip that after running the Herb Miller stuff or the Christofferson stuff, you can use some of these other resources and kind of supplement what congregations already know is going to happen. We don't want these annual campaigns to feel scripted or boring or predictable. So, this is one way I found that you can prevent that from happening. Some other tips. First, if we need to, as pastors, begin to think differently about how our congregations give. We need to make other forms of payment available to the congregation. There are phone apps available where people can give directly through a phone app. There are direct deposits. Now I talk to people and they don't really touch their bills. They fill out a form with their bank, and their bank automatically takes the payment out of their account and into paying their phone bill, their electric bill, their cell phone bills, their cable bills, their heating bills. All of these things I'm finding as I talk to different generations of people, the younger generations are using a direct withdrawal and deposit kind of things. And then churches also need to consider taking credit cards. Now, I know I just talked about not being in debt, but now debit cards work very similarly to credit cards. And I mean, every church is different. You have to talk about how your church feels about this. But I don't want to leave something out that might be a valuable resource for your congregation. I have been in churches that have ATMs in the lobby for their congregation. And I don't know that churches mean that in a negative way as much as thinking about all of these different channels as providing a service for their congregation. That the people in their congregation maybe said, hey, I don't ever have cash with me. I have to stop at the ATM. And so that church is not like, give me your money, but they're trying to provide a service to their congregation. So I think if we can think about all these different venues and channels as services that we provide our congregation, that's a healthier way to look at it. The next piece of advice I have is you need to give updates on the campaign. For example, after the campaign closes, I keep it open for like 2 more weeks because people may miss, we may get late pledges. And so I want to keep the congregation up to date about what our financial goal was, if we met our financial goal, and then if we went over or under our financial goals significantly, to talk about what now. So, for example, if you have a major shortage in your campaign, you need to talk about what changes are going to be happening in the congregation or what visions are going to have to take a back seat temporarily until the financial means happen. And that goes hand in hand with where's your vision? How do we still move the vision forward? Maybe not as full as we wanted to move it forward, but how can we continue to move the vision forward despite deficits and maybe even overages? I have had several campaigns that have gone over, and so I can say, stand in front of my congregation and say, I can dream even bigger dreams now, and thank you for giving me the freedom to do that. One thing I want to really encourage is testimonies throughout the year. I feel it's really important to give quarterly updates on the goals, how much came in, if we're meeting budget, if we're not meeting budget, and then at least every quarter, have a testimony of someone in the church standing up talking about how the ministries in your church made a difference in your life. Maybe there's a kid in Sunday school who's never gone to church. And when I say testimonies, that person doesn't necessarily have to stand up and talk in church. It could be a video of that person talking or a letter that that person wrote. Because I know not everyone is comfortable with standing up and talking, but you need to have stories about how people's money is making a difference in the lives of other people. Again, it's that vision piece. Money is about what we can do with it to help grow our faith and other people's faith. Money is a tool, and it can be used for such powerful, powerful things. It can feed a starving child, it can bring hope to someone in jail or prison. Our money can put roofs over homeless people's heads, and it can help introduce people to Jesus Christ. And that is the powerful thing I want us to remember through all of this, is that money can be such a wonderful tool to grow the mission and the vision of Jesus Christ. This has been Dr. Kim Seiberling with Broken Sheep. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me at kim@brokensheep.com. And again, I'd like to thank MyCom for this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you. Have a great evening.